The just right OCD, like we talked about, that's where people visually like things just right. And it's completely subjective based on how it feels inside of them. Sometimes it's like perfect for everyone, and sometimes it's not. But it's based on a feeling, can be just right on how they feel walking in a room. I mean, for every person, there's a different version of OCD. There's also pedophilia OCD, which is a more taboo form of it. People obsess about if they're a pedophile or not. They'll look across a room and they'll see a kid's butt and they're like, oh, I'm a pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they're obsessing about that. There's also harm OCD. A common one in that is people drive over a bump and they're like, oh no, did I just kill someone? And so then they go around the circle and they're like, oh, I didn't. That's their compulsion, right? They're checking and they drive over the bump again. That's a really common one. The harm one, if some people watch a series on serial killers, then
Mm-hmm.
they're like, am I a serial killer, right? And so they start obsessing about these types of things. For people that don't know, it can be scary when you start hearing this stuff in your office, but super, super normal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for an obsessive brain. They obsess about things that are bizarre in nature, and it's not a judgmental tool. It's just slightly out of the norm of what someone would worry about. Uh,
So for me, it's helpful to conceptualize like the bare bones of OCD in that there are obsessions present, correct?
Mhm.
And then there's compulsions sometimes because there's the phenomenon of true O. Is that how you say it? Where there's
Pure.
just obsessions?
Pure O.
Pure O. There you go. That's what it
Yeah.
was. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, 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 you go. I'm sorry.
Well, to me, as somebody who's not an expert in OCD but feels OCD informed, I love to make that distinction. I'm OCD informed and not OCD competent. So I can clock it, as the kids say. I can acknowledge it and see it when it's in my office, and then I make the appropriate referral to you or anyone else who is more specialized than I am. I know to look for there are the obsessive thoughts and then the compulsive actions, and then those flavors kind of get put on top of that. And so the content of the obsessions is kind of what varies from person to person, as well as the compulsions vary from person to person. Would that be like an accurate
Yeah.
description of it? Okay. Okay.
Yes, and I think that the content is based on what's important, most important to the client. So if they care about not hurting people, they're going to obsess about being a killer. It
Yeah.
really it says so much about who they are as a person. Yes, and there is something called pure O, which is pure obsession.
Mhm.
I always think there's a thought compulsion, so I don't really abide by like a pure obsessive
Okay.
brain. I'm not saying there can't be someone, but most of the time there's some thought or internal compulsion happening, whether it's sensation checking, feeling checking, memory checking, but it's just not external. Like